so many people here. And before we go to the opening the reasonable opportunity for the public to be heard, I want to thank somebody that's here on her birthday. That's a true trooper. Where are you, Belkis? Belkis Remind. Let's wait. Where's Belkis? Let's wish her a happy birthday. She's hiding. I had the opportunity when I was mayor to deal with her a lot when she was in Commissioner Diaz's office. And thank you for being here on your birthday. That's a true trooper right there. So thank you very much. And best wishes on your birthday. And when we finish, go home, have a good time, have a great weekend. So, all right, we'll start with we're going to open up the reasonable opportunity to be heard. And I have a speaker card. I only have one from staff, right? This is the only one we have. And we'll call up. You have 2 minutes. Give us your opinion in a short, succinct, and concise manner, which means 2 minutes. So I'm calling up Amy Morales. How are you? The clock doesn't start till... Just state your name and address for the record, if you could.
Amy Morales, 829 Southwest 9th Avenue, Miami, Florida, 331. Yeah, well, good morning. I'm policy director at Engage Miami, and we're here today on behalf of 12 partner orgs to express strong support for the adoption of a digital interactive budget tool, a initiative that directly advances the goals of this committee, and a proposed resolutions 2B and 2F. This tool will not only enhance transparency by visualizing how our county allocates funds across departmental areas like health and society, but would centralize and digitize budget information in a transparent, multilingual format to reduce duplicative printed material costs and provide real-time budget adjustments that would then lessen the need for repeated communication spending throughout the fiscal year. Counties like Pinellas, Flagler, and municipalities like North Miami have already implemented a tool like this, despite having half of the budget that our county has. This tool is widely recognized as more fiscally responsible and a more equitable approach to a public budgeting. In addition to a reduced spending, we believe that this tool will support a more participatory budgeting process grounded in real transparency. We believe that this interactive format would make the budget accessible to people of all educational backgrounds, right? No one should have to read more than 200 pages to understand how public dollars are spent. So we urge this committee to support the development of a budget interactive tool, and we would also appreciate the opportunity to meet with any commissioner that would like to move this forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Now, in abundance of caution, is there anybody else that would like to speak at this time during the public opportunity to be heard? Okay, having no other speaker cards and nobody else choosing to speak, we're going to close the public opportunity to be heard. And at this point, to the county attorneys, can we go ahead and set the agenda?
Yes, as noted in the changes sheet, item 2F was added to the official agenda. Additionally, the prime sponsor has requested deferral to no date certain for item 2C. And I believe, Mr. Chairman, you may have some comments on items 2F.
Yes. Okay.
And with that, a motion to set the agenda is in
Is
order.
there a motion? Moved by Commissioner Craig. Is there a second?
Second. My only request is if I can pick up 3A as a sponsor.
Okay. I don't think, is there any objection? I don't think there should be. I don't think if it has any objection, we can do that by consensus, but on the motion, is all in favor, say aye?
Aye.
Aye, okay. All right, perfect. Let's go to Commissioner Gonzalez, as was stated, has requested to defer item 2C to no date certain at the Appropriations Committee. So the question is whether we follow the same way. I am going to request a deferral on 2F, but I would like to explain why. So if we can take them separately, is there any issue on deferring item 2C?
No, at appropriations, he said it to see and I spoke to the clerk also, the clerk is doing this, so why be duplicative?
Right.
Was the reasoning.
Okay, so if there's a no problem, let's just formally defer this item. Is there a motion, a second?
So, no date certain.
No date certain. Okay, motion by Commissioner Orbis, second by Commissioner Regalado.
I'll second,
All in favor, say aye. Aye, okay. On 2F, I'm going to move to defer it to the next meeting at the request of our chairman. Obviously, I am strongly supportive of this item. I want to make sure that we move this forward, preferably, obviously, under the county commission side of the aisle, if possible. So in order to make sure that we're all on the same page, I'd like to defer it to the next meeting if possible.
second.
Okay. All right, seconded by Commissioner Cohen-Higgins. All in favor, say aye. 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 Okay. Now, anybody want to bifurcate any items?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to bifurcate 3A. I'm fully supportive. I just have a few questions.
Okay, so 3A. And I am going to bifurcate 2D. So we can talk about it. Okay? Anything else? All right, there being nothing else, then we take up the bifurcated items first.
Would you like to move the items that were not bifurcated?
Oh, absolutely. We can have a motion for that.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Regalado, seconded by Commissioner Orbis. All in favor say aye. Aye. All right. Okay, let's start with 3A, Commissioner Cohen-Higgins.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On 3A, I noticed that there are over 100, I think 179 vendors added to a number of different pools. Can the administration just walk me through how these companies were added to these pools and what process they have to follow in order to be added?
Good morning, Namira Upal, Chief Procurement Officer. Commissioner, the pools are open. All of the pools that we come to the board for approval for establishment are open pools. And they're published on our county's website. All of the pools with the criteria that to get into this pool, you got to have this license or whatever the requirements are, maybe the experience in providing that type of service. And the requirements are listed in there. The application for each pool is listed in there. So what we do is we do extensive outreach to the vendors, sending them notifications. Or if we do outreach events, show them, hey, here are the pools if you're interested in getting added. So a lot of times we get applications throughout the term of the pool. Hey, here's our application. My staff will go through, do they meet all of the requirements of the pool? Are they a responsible company, verifying their references? They're registered with the county. And if they meet all of the requirements, they get added into the pool. And there's always a check and balance of one staff member prepares and reviews the documentation, the manager will make sure everything is done correctly, and then they get added.
Thank you for that explanation. So there is no discretion on a company being added to a pool. It is by a specific metric that is advertised and open. So within a department head can't see an application come in that meets all of the qualifications and then make a determination that this company will not be added to the pool. If you meet the qualifications, you're not responsive, but you're responsible, you are getting into that pool?
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for that explanation. Nothing further, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Commissioner Regalado.
Thank you. So Namita, I asked for sponsorship because I'm so glad you brought it. We've been talking about this a lot, and one of the ways that we can really streamline this is by adding more people to the pools and making it easier for us to do some of the pool work. And to my colleagues, I will tell you, and obviously Roy knows, for water and sewer and for a lot of the infrastructure work that we do, it really cuts so much time. It really cuts so much time. And there is an added benefit in that you do not get pool work until you finish pool work. So if you can explain that really quick, Namita, because I think it's a great incentive that actually is not available when we do RFPs. So you could be doing multiple projects, right? But in terms of the pool, everyone is incentivized to finish on time and on budget, so you can get back in the pool. Yes.
Commissioner, so we have three different kinds of categories of pool. One is the regular goods and services that's indicated here. Then we also have the pool for architects and engineers, so the low dollar value or design work could go through that. And I think that's what you're talking about. In those, it's a rotational program. So when it's a rotational program, as you get awarded in one of the categories or whatever your design work is, you go to the bottom of the list. You're not going to be getting in the list for the next rotation because you're already doing the work. So the idea is to spread the work among all the companies.
Right, and I wanted you to specify that. I mean, to Commissioner Cohen-Higgins' question, I mean, I think it's a very equitable system, and it allows everybody that's in there to do a project, and then if they want back in, they have to finish that project, and then the rotation continues. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, if there's no further discussion, we'd entertain a motion.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Regalado,
Second.
seconded by Commissioner Orbis. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, let it reflect the pass unanimously. I bifurcated item 2D for the following reason. I don't have a problem having this heard by all of the commission, but one of the issues that stands out to me here is that there's a petition for road closing, which is fine, and it can come from any person, doesn't have to be necessarily from the county or from the board. But one of my concerns is whenever we give away something that we have a right to, in some other instances, we look at the land, what's the value of the land, and then transfer it. So I haven't had a chance to ask all the questions of the administration on this issue or in the department. So unless any of you have an objection, I would like to move to advance this to the full Board of County Commissioners, but with no recommendation.
I agree with you. I mean, I think it says that it has no direct fiscal impact, but clearly when you read the item, right, it could potentially have a fiscal impact. So I'm happy to move it with no recommendation, Mr. Chair.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second it for
Okay,
discussion.
perfect. Commissioner Cohen-Higgins. Go ahead.
So this is more to the administration. A vacation of a right-of-way is a rather routine item in my experience. We have them often and frequent. So what is the distinction on this item regarding a fiscal impact and why this might have any higher of a fiscal impact than any other vacation of right-of-way that we see so routinely on our agendas?
Coming all the way from the back. Even though I may answer for you because I have my own thought too.
Yeah.
Yes, good morning. Miguel Soria, Department of Transportation Public Works. With regarding to the fiscal impacts for these items, based on the county codes, the county code stipulates I think it's a 10% of the property value. That's what we assign as the fiscal impact, and that's based on administrative fees that we incur on the processing of the item.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you my concern. I'm glad Commissioner Cohen-Higgins brought this up because I agree with her that many times it's not an issue. But when I looked at this parcel in particular, and I think maybe even in your district, and we just had something, if I'm not mistaken, with the Archdiocese, back of one of their buildings, there was still an agreement on the amount that would need to be paid by whoever we go ahead and turn this land over to. And when I look at this parcel in particular, it's clear that this would probably have, it would make the person's property a little bit bigger. I don't know what that number is. I don't have a problem moving this forward, and maybe I'll be supportive of it when we go to the full board. I just want to get clearer answers before we get there.
I think, listen, I don't have a problem with the item. I just think we should get it out of committee. I don't think there's anything wrong with moving it without a recommendation. The maker isn't here, but I would assume that what the maker wants is for it to go to the full BCC.
Yeah, that's what I'm assuming he wants also. So,
Yeah.
and then at that point, if there's any
You feel
questions-
uncomfortable with it? I have no problem with it, but I think, I'm happy to move it without a recommendation. I don't think that really changes its trajectory. I think Commissioner Hardeman would just want it to get to the full BCC. That way he can speak to it.
Right, and we can get some discussions in between, which is fine, and that's what I think he wants, moving it along, so. So there is a motion and there is a second, right? Commissioner Cohen-Higgins, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay, so we'll move that along to the full BCC. Okay, now we got our presentations. I know we have 3 groups. We're going to try to keep you within a maximum of 10 minutes, and you get brownie points if you do it earlier. And then we'll then have questions after each department's presentations. And we're going to start with Director Ofelia Tamayo, if she can come on up for the Internal Compliance Department. I think all of you should have some documents that you received, if I'm not mistaken, just to be clear. Should have. Yeah. Okay, everybody's got them? There you go. Let's go ahead and give everybody copies of all the documents. We just got them yesterday, so that's okay. I haven't had a chance to read it, so we're gonna hear it. Okay, Ofelia, go ahead.
Thank you, and good morning, everyone. Thank you, Chair, for this opportunity to present. Welcome, Vice Chair Orbis and all the commissioners on this committee. I'm very excited about this committee itself and how it aligns with internal compliance. So internal compliance, we are forward-looking. We were established by the mayor to identify operational efficiencies across departments, to reduce costs, improve service levels, and increase accountability. This makes us very focus aligned with this committee here today. We want to be strategic partners, not only with you, but also as we align and collaborate with the Commission Auditor, the Clerk of Courts, and including the Office of Inspector General. Our divisions include revenue generation, controls, right level controls, and efficient processes, compliance as well. And including our Inform system, where we're trying to optimize the county's enterprise resource planning system. So we have credit and collections, Office of Enterprise Strategies, process and control management, and P-card compliance. Under credit and collections, we have a section that is basically the debt collectors for the county, as well as Jackson Health. We collect debt that is very dated, sometimes more than 5 years, could be 10 years. But we have successfully collected over $20 million a year in gross collections, and where we keep our a portion of it to self-fund this group, and then we also give back to the departments that we are collecting for. Under this collections, we also manage the hospital trust fund, where we are obtaining the payments from the private hospitals to fund the resolution that addresses this one. In credit and collections, we also have another section which is code compliance, where we administer over 120,000 citations for code enforcement. Under this one, we also manage the Code Enforcement Technology Trust Fund, which generates its revenue from these citations. A little portion of the citation goes to this trust fund. And we have successfully, for instance, provided body cameras for our RER code enforcement team. That is one of our main projects, as well as some other technology investments. Under Office of Enterprise Strategies, we are the county's Informs group, We work collaboratively with ITD as well as the business processes that have impact within forms. We provide project management, production support, system optimization, business process architecture, and change management. We have achieved some efficiencies, including the COCO transition that we just did at the beginning of the year, as well as some other optimizations within the modules. We have still lots of room to grow and do, so we do have some efficiency and effectiveness goals that include streamlining the business processes, enhancing our technology adoption, and improving overall the user experience and satisfaction. So some of our future initiatives include streamlining the payroll processes, sourcing optimization for our procurement, as well as an upgrade to the system. Under process and control management, we review program services and use of funds, not only to adhere to policy, but to find process efficiencies, as well as generate revenue, where we find potential assessments and recoveries for the departments we service. Our goal is to issue about 50 reports a year, and these reports are actually available online under our website, and they're publicly facing. As I mentioned, part of the results of these reports is that we actually do some assessments as well as recoveries for departments. So, for instance, we assisted Department of Solid Waste in recovering some disposal fee facilities that were underreported by the haulers. We've also assisted water and sewer with recoveries. We did a big biosolids a couple years back that recovered some money. We've also done animal services, so we provide value add, not only in process efficiencies, but also in recovering funds where applicable. Under P-card compliance, we are the P-card compliance. We are the administrator for the county and the BCC. We are looking to streamline wherever possible this program, not only for the county, but for the users. So the idea that I've had as we build up this compliance unit, and we've already started working on it, we're streamlining the website for the application process so it's very easy. We are also looking into using artificial intelligence for a chatbot so that actually if you have a question, can I use my P card this way or can I do this? It actually looks at our policies. We're trying to do less overrides so that you have a more streamlined, whoever's a P card holder has a more streamlined, efficient use, but still under controls. And we're actually creating dashboards with the help of the ITD department to provide these dashboards out to the departments to see how they use their card and where they can also find some efficiencies. So we're working on that. In terms of budget to actual, this is the different divisions under internal compliance department. We are not just general fund supported, as I mentioned. We also self-fund our credit and collections, and we also service some enterprise accounts, so our funding is not all general fund. I do want to mention before closing and asking you for my one thing, that we are looking at artificial intelligence for many different things. We're looking at it for process efficiencies. We're looking at it for, in the credit and collections, we're actually already looking at an automated caller answering system where if you do want to come and pay your debt, we will gladly take your money. But it frees up our collectors for those debts that are a little more difficult to get. So we are looking at our artificial intelligence across the board, including in forms. So in closing, I just want to say that, again, we strategically align, we collaborate, and we compensate with the commission auditor, with the clerk of the courts, with the Office of Inspector General. But I think what we do and what we ask this committee is we want to strategically align with the county and this committee to be the resource to identify and make recommendations for process efficiencies. So come to us first. We have a great team across the board, and we may be able to get the same resolution without incurring additional costs. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Tamayo. We now have questions. We'll start with Commissioner Regalado.
Thank you. I love the artificial intelligence. I've actually worked with it on the chatbot and on the call. It's great. I'm a big fan. And when it gets jammed up, it just moves you to a human, so it doesn't give you bad information. I know that, and we'll ask when we get to ITD, that we do have some artificial intelligence components within our Microsoft contract. So you would be accessing that already, right? So it's not like a new expense, it's you would be accessing that through our existing contracts.
There's pilot. Also, ChatGPT is very popular. We have determined that a license for ChatGPT is $300 a year. So it has some advantages, but there is also pilot that we can use, and that's within the Microsoft product.
Okay, great. And that was going to be my other recommendation, that there are some that, obviously the only issue is, putting proprietary information into that, but this is not proprietary information. It's just like question and answer. And because I've done it for chatbots, and what you do is like the document that you already have of like questions, most common questions, you just upload it to the chatbot. And 9 times out of 10, those are the questions that people are asking.
And just to clarify, that chatbot is going to be on the intranet because it's for the P card. So
Right.
that's only for employees.
Oh,
Won't be
okay. I thought you were
outward
also
facing.
doing like a chatbot for folks that are paying.
We are doing the caller. So when you call in, it goes into this automatic caller
Okay. All right.
answering system.
And what I know that FDOT is doing it now, but there's also a new texting to folks that owe money. So there's like a new text like service that like texts them, and then it routes them to either the caller or it routes them to the website where they can pay. Have you guys looked at that?
My credit collections team is actually here, the division management, so I'm sure they're super excited. They're already probably Googling that. I think it works better because I did give them a mandate to reduce the bulk mail that we send because we feel like maybe that's a bit outdated now. We do get some hits of people who owe money, but it's not as effective anymore. So I am positive, Commissioner Regalado, they're probably already looking into it.
Yeah, I will tell you, we go through these like phases, like for some time, like the calls were very effective, and you get a lot of complaints. Right now, the texts are very effective. You get a lot of complaints, but they still read them and they respond and they click, right? So the only issue with that is that you could have someone that tries to use that, right, to commit fraud and stuff. But I know that for sure FDOT is doing it. There's different organizations that are doing it. So I would tell you to look into that. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Cohen-Higgins.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for this presentation. It's thorough and it's impressive. I do have a few specific questions. On your second or your third slide, you discuss $24 million in gross collections, but there's no context given. What is the outstanding debt that is owed? So what is the percentage that's actually being
It's
collected?
significantly greater than that.
I figured. What's
we-
the percentage that's actually owed?
Do we have a number? It's in the millions.
I'm sorry?
3 million? 3 billion.
Okay, so our county has an outstanding debt, I guess these are for citations, of $3 billion.
It's not just citations. Remember, we collect for Jackson Health. Jackson Health is one of our biggest customers. The top customers is surprisingly Animal Services as well, RER, and it goes down the line. But Jackson Health does make up a big portion of it. And we also collect for the physicians of Jackson.
And the 24 million gross, that's an average or that's an actual number collected last year?
That is our target. Last year was about 23.3, 21 million. But we're looking ways to increase that, again, through artificial intelligence, maybe looking at our inventory to try to collect this debt. But keep in mind, this debt is dated. And the way we work internally is that we try to commingle, like collaborate all the debt that you may owe. So if a person who owes RER money, Animal Services money, and Jackson, we try to group that all together and give them an offer so that we can try to collect this debt.
And on the next slide, on citations administered for fiscal year 23, it shows a metric of 100. And for fiscal year 24, it's 155. I know this is in the thousands. What do you attribute that jump to? Because that's a notable jump.
It could be how the court enforcement, how they go out there and do citations. It could be their method. After COVID, remember during COVID, citations were kind of stalled. So then they were increased again.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
Go ahead, Commissioner Regalado.
Thank you. And just to clarify some stuff on that, one of the things that we talked about some time ago was allowing folks to pay RER differently. I know we talked about PayPal and like there's been a lot of different conversations, but the issue with that is like the piece that they take. So I know that there is an RFP at Water and Sewer that's looking at that. And I know that RER has also been looking at providing people with different payment methods. And one of the things that we've talked about that is important is using these new companies that allow you to pay in chunks. So like Klarma, there's like a series of them. PayPal also now allows you to pay in chunks. And what they do is they debit it out of your account. I know that there's state organizations that have already started using that, and they've seen the rate of return increase because we don't have to foot the payment plan, right? It is a payment plan, but it's a payment plan that doesn't go on their credit. Have you guys, the issue is you're like on the back end of it, right? So you're collecting what the departments are not collecting. So as the departments get more sophisticated in the tools that they're providing so that people can pay, then that reduces your collection burden. So just putting that out there, because I know that there's several departments that are dealing with that. And the state in their financial report, one of the things that they mentioned about 6 months ago is that they saw a decline in the debts that people were paying because people are maxing out their credit cards. So if you go back a year and a half, right, you see a dramatic upturn in the use of credit cards. And what we're seeing is a lot of folks have reached those maximums. So a lot of these bills that they were putting on credit cards, they can't anymore. And that's why you're seeing more collections. The last thing I wanted to mention as we talk about this is if you could explain to the board what happens when you don't collect, because that goes into it doesn't just disappear. So if you can say, I know what happens because I dealt with this a few years ago and then also at the school board, but the number here, if you could just drill down on what happens to that number, because it doesn't just stay on the books. Thank you.
No. And we do accept cash, checks, and credit cards. So just know that we have cashiers on the 26th floor, and people do come and pay us in cash, and we receive checks as well. So, no, the debt doesn't go away. It goes into what we call a little warehouse. And so we leave you right there because, like I said, if, let's say, you have another new debt that comes in to our inventory, and you have another outstanding debt that's been pretty old and we haven't been able to collect, we kind of drag it back in to your account, and we, again, make you an offer to pay.
Right. So that's important when we're talking about whether it's Jackson or RER. So when you come in for something else, then it dings the system and they're like, hey, by the way, you still owe us this. So I just wanted to clarify that point because I think the numbers in this particular presentation and in this balance sheet are a little bit more dynamic. So thank you.
Mr. Chair, I wanted to ask him.
Commissioner.
I wanted to ask, so I know that we have been using the Inform system for a couple of years now. How effective have you seen that? How effective have you seen that to be, the transition to Informs? I know that was a huge thing, going from paper to all tech, going from inputting, these things to having the employees put in their things, their leave and all that stuff. So how have you seen the effectiveness of that? And as far as cost as well?
So for some, Informs has a bad name because they only notice when something goes wrong. But
That happens a lot.
I'm an advocate of an ERP system. I think we have improvements to do, and I will not doubt that there's improvements we can do, and there's things that we should review to optimize the system. For instance, we have a slight payroll issue, and it becomes a big issue because we don't want anyone to not get paid, right? So we prioritize everyone gets paid. But if you look at the total amounts of payments we run a cycle, which could be 30,000 plus, and we have problems with 100 individuals, we have to keep that in context. Again, our focus is that everyone gets paid correctly. And that's one of our actually main goals for this division, just in that module of the ERP system. But please keep in mind that we also have the procurement module, we have the financial module, and you don't hear about those as much. So I do think it's a great system. I think we have work to do and improvements to do to optimize it. But it also gave the employees more power. It's a user access. So you can go in there, you can view your paycheck in there, you can get your W-2 electronically, you can do so many things as an employee that you don't have to wait for somebody else
Right.
to access.
So I know that there's changes that happen to it constantly. Are you doing employee training to make sure that everybody's up to speed with those changes? Because I know that there's changes that roll out as a county employee. I know that happens often. And that maybe causes the glitch that occurs sometimes, or it has to do with that. So do you have constant training for the
We
employees?
do have a training arm within this division, so we do provide training, and we also provide it online, so it's easily accessible as well. And we have more future projects in that training, because I do agree with you. I think sometimes the training is what helps to better understand the system.
Okay. And at some point, will we see the cost evaluation between what we had before and what we have now?
We can do that. We've been looking at that already.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Mayo, first of all, thank you for the presentation. I only have a couple of questions, and very short. My colleagues have covered a lot of the issues that I think are important. And thank you first for the presentation. One is a clarification. If I heard you and your staff correctly, the collections were expecting about 24 million, correct?
That is the goal,
Okay.
but
And-
I want more.
right, but what's out there is 3 billion, right?
Yes.
Okay, so that's a big difference.
That's what
If
we
we
work on
even
every day.
improved 10%, we'd have a substantial number of dollars that would come back. And I think you and I may have discussed this, and I don't, one of the good things about having these presentations is that we get to see hear a little bit more in depth about what goes on with each department. But one of my concerns has always been, as we talk about transparency, is for the Board of County Commissioners to have access to some of this information. Obviously, there's some things that we can't. If there's something in litigation, things of that type, that's a different story. But it would make it, I think, a lot easier for all of us to do our job if some of this is stuff that we could not have to go and have a meeting and request a meeting, et cetera. Is there any effort to try to potentially have us as the commission be able to have access to this information without having to? And I think you and I discussed kind of like a dashboard concept or some equivalent of that. So we would be able to see, real time in the sense of, did these collections improve between month A to B instead of, waiting till the end of the year?
We are working on dashboards, like I said, for P-card compliance. For the Process and Control Management Division, which reports are issued, those reports are already online. So you can access them real time. You don't have to call us for that report. For credit and collections, we do run internal reports. So I will work with the team. I've actually been working with them quite extensively because I do like dashboards, just like we discussed. And I think it gives us a better idea of where maybe we can make improvements and actually collect at least 10% more.
Right. Yeah. Again, and the dashboard concept for me is not, and I want to be clear, it's not a concept that we're saying, hey, it's not a got you.
No.
Even though it's the get committee, it's not a got you concept. It's access to information for the commission to be able to see. For example, like you said, on the credit and collection, we could track certain things and, say, hey, and we don't have to worry about necessarily just going and asking you constantly, but we'd be able to see it in real time. So I think that would be a great thing for us to have more access to information, because I think sometimes for us as commissioners, there are ways that technology can be used to get us that information a lot easier and quicker, and it will give us an opportunity to do a better job. So thank you very much, Mr. Mayo. Thank you very much for the presentation.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, next we have Director Raymond Hall. It's coming up for the new department, which I love the name, People and Internal Operations. Somebody said it in Spanish yesterday. It's called PIOD. PIOD. So Raymond, that's in Spanish. It's got an interesting acronym. So.
Yeah, I think internally, Chair, we've been getting some unique commentary around the name too. But good morning, everyone. Thanks, Chair, Vice Chair, commissioners. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to come to you today to really talk about something I think is very critical to the future, of the county, and really focus on the integration of the newly formed department, People and Internal Operations, which combines human resources and ISD. And also, we've transferred the Office of Small Business Development to strategic procurement. This integration is really a direct reflection of the mayor's WISE 305 vision to streamline business processes, maximize efficiencies, and create synergies across the county. Now, the ultimate goals of the integration are really threefold. One is to make it easier for our employees to work more efficiently and more effectively. Two, to improve the value of the services that we deliver to our residents. And three, and this is a critical point, to deploy an inspired and engaged workforce. I mean, so often we focus on the what we do and not so much as the how we do it and who we have delivering those services. So the quality of the employees that are the backbone of the county are critically important to us. What I'll do is I'll go through some of what I believe are the key focuses of the areas of the integration. We'll talk about some of the actions that we're putting in place that we believe will get at some of these efficiencies and really solve what I think are the county's two biggest issues right now. One is how do we reduce costs, and the other is how do we generate more revenue. I will then turn the time over to Alejandro Martinez Esteve, the Assistant Director for our Real Estate Development team. He reports directly to Chief Edwards, but his division sits within PIOD. And so he'll come up here and he'll talk about some of the improvements we're making there. And then we'll turn the time over back to you to ask questions if you're okay with that approach. Okay, perfect. So I won't spend a lot of time going through the detail of what you see here on these slides, but there are some important numbers to keep in mind as we set the context for the discussion. We're a very lean team in terms of HR. We have about 158 HR employees, which is well below the benchmarking when you look at employee to HR ratio. We serve over 24,000 employees across 26 departments across the county, but we also provide support to the constitutional offices. When most people think of HR, they think of the basics, payroll, hiring, training, and our team delivers way more than that in terms of the impact across the county. I want to highlight two areas, though, that I think are critical to how we gain organizational flexibility, the work that our labor team does. It's not just managing the 10 collective bargaining agreements across 8 unions, but how do you maintain a harmonious relationship? And so we're resetting that relationship with the unions by having more regular meetings with them and having those conversations in a collaborative way, because the more time it takes for us to make decisions from a county perspective, there are cost implications to it in delaying the decision-making process. So the more we can get them on board, the better it is for all involved. The other one I'm pretty proud of is, and Chair, I think you raised this at the last BCC, it was around how do we engage the community in the idea generation around innovation. And under our mayor's leadership, we already have an application and process from an internal perspective. Over the last 5 years, we've saved about $800,000 as a part of this program. What I would suggest, with your approval, is that our Deputy HR Director, Melanie McLean, reach out to your office and have a conversation around how do we expand that to the community.
That'd be fine. I mean, I think the whole goal is to have as many people in this county be able to know what's going on, be as transparent, and have access to giving us their ideas.
Awesome. The other area I want to point out on this slide, and this is a big number when you think about the total expenditures from a healthcare perspective, is approximately $540 million. We have a RFP process underway right now with the goal of how do we reduce those costs, how do we deliver exceptional care to our employees, and focus on access of care as well. So more to come on that. Is under a cone of silence right now, so not a lot I can share about the details, but those are the goals around the RFP. So when I think about ISD, it's really the engine that makes the county go. When you think about not just the people we deploy, but the equipment and other services that we provide both internally and externally. Some important numbers here, particularly as we get into budget conversations later on. We manage over 7.2 million square feet across 40 county facilities. And a huge aspect of our general fund is the emergency repairs. A lot of our buildings, no surprise to you, are older, and the need to consistently maintain those. Some things we can plan for, and we do so on a preventative maintenance basis. And then there are things that just break real time and we have to fix it. So let's just keep that in mind as we go through and we have budget conversations. The other piece is our fleet management team. This team is an awesome team. You think about the variety of services they provide from the county, from the purchasing of vehicles to servicing these vehicles, through maintaining the vehicles, fueling the vehicles, and also disposal of them. Commissioner Cohen-Higgins, one of the things that I'm very thankful to you for is the mayor challenged each department several months ago to find new revenue generating opportunities. It's been quite a struggle to really think outside the box and think differently. So your leadership in bringing McKinsey to the county has really led to some very insightful conversations, highlighted some areas of opportunity. We're exploring some of those opportunities. As a matter of fact, I believe we had a meeting yesterday with McKinsey and talked through some of those, largely in the fleet area. And the challenge now is, while it may be a revenue generating opportunity, what's the cost of opportunity in terms of disruption and some of the other things? But I just want to thank you for that. So let's move on to the key focus areas of the integration. And for the sake of time, and make sure Alejandro has enough time to get through his piece, I just want to highlight these areas so you're aware. And what I would suggest, piggybacking off of Ophelia's comment, is what I like to use our time together with is to make sure this isn't a one and done, that it's an ongoing relationship in terms of the collaboration. I think your ideas into the work that we do is critically important, and having that alignment is essential. So workforce and planning and talent management, I talked about what we're trying to do on the healthcare side of things, but we also believe that standardization of work practices will drive efficiency. It will eliminate some reductions, particularly when you think about our back office functions, like billing and receivables, for example. And then how are we leveraging technology to be one of the primary drivers behind it? So that's one of the things we're looking at. We're also looking at launching a project team to really look at what are our current policies and practices that are simply getting in the way or don't make any sense. And I know in separate conversations with each of you individually, it's something that you've raised, something that you're frustrated by. And as we think about how we deliver our services and who's receiving those services and how we get to that point, there are a number of IOs or policies that are probably dated, that probably aren't adding any value, that we need to catalog those things and bring them to your attention and see if we can get your support in removing those things. Process optimization and technology integration. Ophelia talked a little bit about AI. I think AI plus human intelligence can be a significant area for us to focus on, especially as we start thinking about how we can be more cost effective, how we can be more efficient, and then the transparency. Chair, I know you have a lot of passion for dashboards and data. We have a new division within PIOD called Business Intelligence, and it's about moving from just traditional reporting to what are the insights. So what is the data telling you? And what we want to be able to provide our departments is those insights to better inform decision making. So it's not about what's already happened. It's about being proactively and addressing what might happen and what you can do to mitigate it. So know that we're focusing on that as well. I talked about labor relations and employee engagement. And as a senior HR executive, and that's my background, when you think about the quality of the people we provide, sometimes we forget that we're a people business irrespective of what department we're talking about. And they're at the center of everything we do. And so there are some things that we need to do to reimagine how we recognize people, how we reward people, how we make sure we have the right people in the right place at the right time and the right cost. So we're completely breaking the system and reimagining it and putting something more value added in place. And then performance and cost efficiency. We talked a little bit about what we want to do from a metrics perspective. But what I also want to talk about is to give an example of one of the metrics and why this is critically important, one of the things that we're targeting is a metric called time to fill. So time to fill really just is a metric to tell you how long it's taking to get people hired. So it sounds simplistic, but the operational impact is huge when you think about for some of our critical positions, and this is what we're focusing on. It's not all positions, it's for our critical positions like bus operators and roles like that. The longer it takes to get a person hired, the larger the operational impact. Right now, we're about 115 days in that process. We've set a target of 60 days. And so if we can achieve that milestone, then you'll start to see improved and enhanced productivity. And I think that would benefit the county, both short, and long term. So the last thing I want to leave you with is that this integration is not just about improving the current state, it's also about preparing for the future. And I believe for the county to truly be the best place to work and the best place to do business with, we need to change how we do things. It's as simple as that. But I do need your support. And I talked about helping remove some of the bottlenecks, the red tape and bureaucracy that exists that frustrates both of us. But it's the partnership too. And one thing that since I've been here that I've appreciated is the feedback. I believe feedback is a gift, it's not a criticism. And so I just want to make sure that we have that open communication and transparency from our team and your team, and maybe this committee is the vehicle to do that with, I don't know. But I think that's been critical, and it will be critical to the success of the county. So at this time, if you'd like, I can turn the time over to Alejandro, and then we can come back to address any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Hall, and I share your sentiments exactly. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Director Hall. Good morning, Chairman, committee members. I also welcome the opportunity to provide a brief review of the Office of Real Estate and Development, and I look forward to working with the board on how we will strategically and equitably plan for the most appropriate use of all county assets. Before proceeding, I think it's important for us to understand how we are defining the term real estate. We are not merely referring to our land and buildings and their transactional nature. We are expanding upon that definition to better plan, collaborate, and communicate with all stakeholders to efficiently and effectively address the county's housing crisis, spur economic development, and establish a comprehensive county-wide master plan for development that aligns with the county's strategic objectives. To that end, my office considers all components of our assets, from their value, their highest and best use, to their ability to adapt to an ever-changing environment. As a brief introduction, the Office of Real Estate and Development portfolio consists of two key teams that directly oversee the development of tangible real estate assets. The Program Management Office focuses on planning, designing, and managing projects that range from minor facility repairs to major construction and renovations, ensuring projects are executed efficiently, sustainably, and in alignment with county objectives. This team supports multiple county departments, constitutional offices, and currently manage approximately 200 projects at an estimated value of $850 million. The real estate team is responsible for leveraging technology, which we'll get into more in depth, industry best practices to ensure real estate actions for the development, acquisition, disposition, and leasing of property assets are completed in accordance with regulations and standards. The real estate team is currently responsible for keeping track of almost 5,000 county properties and 300 active leases. Just as a brief example, this slide highlights two major ongoing PMO projects that address operational needs while replacing outdated and antiquated facilities, and they allow for future adaptability. These improvements greatly impact operational efficiency and add value to the land the buildings occupy. For every major project, there are dozens of smaller yet equally important initiatives that are treated the same, with the same thought process and addressing operational needs while allowing for adaptability of future needs. The real estate team has negotiated major development deals recently approved by the board that demonstrate the ability of county-owned assets to be utilized for public benefits, including housing, retail, office space, recreational facilities, as well as other amenities. These deals also offer opportunities to generate revenue through the sale of properties, as well as more passive revenue through long-term leases. Revenues which in turn can be reinvested in the development of county assets and provide additional benefits to the public at large. While these two teams are structured separately, a major strength lies in how they work together to develop projects which rely on each team's varied expertise. This slide highlights a more thoughtful and consolidated approach to the consideration of and purchase of a major asset added to the county's portfolio. I'm sure you're all familiar with the 9250 project, which will, once complete, be the West Dade Government Center. While the acquisition will directly impact county residents by providing them with a regional government facility for needed services, the site also benefits from surplus parking area that will be redeveloped as much needed affordable housing. Through this approach, the county maximizes the property's use, introduces a mixed-use concept to mostly unused space, and ensures a return of investment. My office will focus on this master planning approach to strategically and equitably plan for the most appropriate use of all county-owned and leased real property while engaging the local environment and economy. These focus strategies will maximize opportunities in both existing and future developments and develop a clear action plan that sets the stage for a more unified, effective, and socially responsible approach to real estate development in the county. Through the master plan, we can engage with the best and brightest from the development community and ensure that the county has the ability to move quickly with the most creative and beneficial use for our properties and assets. Chairman, this slide highlights major efficiency initiatives that are near and dear to your heart and speak to the nature of this committee. Since being handed over the reins about 9 months ago, I have initiated a top-down review of all processes related to product delivery and will continue doing so until no stone is left unturned. Highlighted here are examples directly aimed at efficiency and my office's ability to work in a transparent and process-driven manner, fully integrated with IT. Appraisals. So the word alone might conjure negative reactions for some. However, my office has reviewed past practices and implemented changes that will reduce the time to engage with an appraiser in half, as well as modifying current restrictions that delayed payment to appraisers themselves, which further delayed the process. Commissioner Orbis, I have worked directly with your office to address issues surrounding appraisals, in particular of the timelines of their delivery by third-party appraisers, so I thank you for your support. Through these changes, we will quickly and responsibly obtain the value of county assets, which are a critical data point when negotiating or assigning value to property. So I'm a man of faith, so I will not use this word lightly. Appraisals are we should consider them carefully, so there should be some sanctity to these appraisals. They offer a lot of benefits to us internally in the county as well as to all the stakeholders, because that's how we ensure that the value of the properties is considered in all of our developments. A second pillar of efficiency is the removal of a siloed approach to how we conduct real estate business. My office leads cooperative efforts aimed at leveraging technology and industry best practices to ensure real estate actions are uniformly applied across all county. Recurring team sessions consist of representatives from all county departments and offices, with a stated purpose of fostering a collaborative environment to ensure seamless integration of planning, design, and project development. This group is also charged with standardization of all real estate documents that will streamline all related processes. So I think the important takeaway there is where before departments or agencies may coordinate real estate transactions independently, now we're benefiting from the experience and the opinions of all county departments and offices anytime we make a real estate transaction. And finally, the property conveyance assessment team has been assembled under my leadership to directly manage all county assets and safeguard that they are utilized as approved by the board. And Chairman, we would like to make you an honorary member of a team fully integrated with technology that are stewards of property assets owned by county residents. On a quarterly basis, the board will receive a report that will detail the status of conveyances and leases in default and the team's efforts to recover property tax monies owed through efforts, including the reversions of properties back to the county. So some time ago, you may have received, or you should have received, the first PCAT quarterly report. The next one is being routed now for placement on an agenda. So I'm available to discuss the contents of that report and the actions that this team takes in particular to make sure that conveyances and leases, follow the directives of the board when the items were approved. So finally, opportunities. In closing, I seek the board's assistance in supporting modifications to current regulations for the disposition of county property. Where current processes present challenges, my office is actively working to establish a clear sequential system that identifies for the board matters of relevance prior to accepting a formal proposal for property disposition. And Commissioner Cohen-Higgins, in previous negotiations on deals within your district, we've worked closely with your staff to identify tripping points on how we negotiate deals, in particular how it ties back to regulations. So I look forward to continuing that discussion with your office, and I appreciate your input and your guidance. Additionally, this modified process will foster collaboration, increase communication and transparency, and allow for an opportunity to discuss and develop potential opportunities that may be in the best interest of the county and its district commissioners. Finally, this review will be fully integrated with IT, include reasonable timeframes, and be available to all users of the IT application. Dovetail with these modifications are ongoing efforts to standard all documents and standard operating procedures related to real estate transactions. This will level the playing field across the county and diminish or eliminate legal challenges tied to inconsistent agreements or documents. I want to thank you for this opportunity. I want to reiterate my availability to discuss any issues or projects as needed. So in closing, you can consider my section kind of an umbrella agency. So I look forward to working with all of you to identify efficiencies that we can bring under that umbrella to make sure that real estate and real estate from the negotiation phase all the way up to and including construction can be streamlined and be more transparent. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rez. If there's any questions? I want to thank you for certainly the work you've done when we've agreed and disagreed. But I think that, and I think you mentioned at our last Board of County Commissioners meeting, I really appreciate the fact that we're trying to be as clear and transparent, whether it's assessing the value of a property. We all know that our workforce housing is a key issue. But some of the things that occurred, none of us were, I think, on the commission, but when we go 8 or 9 years without people paying rent, things like that, it becomes an issue. And I'm glad that we're looking at that, not from a, and there may be special circumstances, because there are in some instances, but if there are, then this commission needs to know, and you need to bring that to us so we can make that decision, so we don't have this situation. Just because beyond the fact that it's really not the right thing to do, it really looks like we've somehow dropped the ball, and you've got a heavy task in front of you. So are there any other questions of Mr. Stebbins? Commissioner Regalado?
Yeah, just as a point of clarification, because like I said, when we talked about this last lease, a day late in my district, you'll get an eviction notice. So the 300 active leases that you have, what system do you use to monitor payment?
So we actually are working directly with IT. So all of the backbone as far as leases and conveyances and county-owned property is already implemented with IT. The next step is actually capabilities to monitor these leases, somewhat automated, and even send out notices and bring items to staff's attention so that we can then follow up.
But that's a department, not a system. So what's the plan for the system? Is it like a tickler system? Like, do you want IT to respond to that?
No, so yeah. So
What do you
we
use right now? Like, do you use Post-it notes? Like, what's the system right now?
So the IT has created an in-house system for us, yes.
Okay, I make the Post-it note joke because when I served as a school board member on the Value Adjustment Board, that was the system. It was Post-it notes. I'm not joking that has happened in the county. But right now, you do have, obviously, you're working on a better system, but you do have a system. Currently, do you have any leases where folks are not paying of the 300?
We actually, so the next PCAD report that will come before you will identify any leases that we have where payment is an issue. But we are working actively with those agencies. And that report will also detail our actions and any follow-up that may be needed. So I don't have an exact number on me, but the next PCAD report will include that information.
That's fine. When does payment become an issue?
The very next month.
Okay, just to clarify that, because that has been my experience. I mean, in my experience, not even the next month, like a week in, like we're like, hey, by the way, you have a lease and you haven't paid. And does the system also track when there are negotiations over that payment? Because I think that's where we got jammed up on this last item that Commissioner Bermudez is talking about. You know, there's some he said, she said, as to if they were negotiating a resolution. Does your system track if there is some issue that is being discussed and what meetings are being had to resolve the payment issue?
It will be, yes. So the system includes all of the terms of the leases in black and white. So my staff understands and been instructed to follow the terms of the lease. Anything beyond that, should it involve one of the county commissioners, we'll be sure to highlight that for you. But the marching orders are the very next month, you need to pay, otherwise you're in default. We do send out notices that allows a certain time period to cure.
Right, and that was going to be my last point. A notice is sent out, and that is part of the legal record, so thank you.
Absolutely, and just so when I came in, maybe it wasn't Post-it notes, but it was Microsoft Excel and a little bit of the he said, she said was more prevalent than it will be moving forward.
Thank you.
Well, thanks, and I just want to reiterate, I share Commissioner Regalado's sentiments, and I think most of us do are on the same page, and you'll probably see something that I'll proffer at some point, because I do think we got to square this away. And it's not your fault, I got it. This has been going on for a while, but I just don't think it's best practices. I don't think it's good for us as a county, and it's something that could be solved relatively easily. And, you know, being a rules-oriented person, if you don't pay, then you got to tell us why you don't. We decide if there's a valid reason. But when we're talking about things that go on for years, I think that's nobody. I mean, I'd be kicked out of my house if I didn't pay my mortgage, right? So lasting that long, should just not be the case. And we need to track it, and that's one of the ways to be much more effective and efficient. So I applaud you for doing that. I think technology allows you as you move forward, and I know we're going to be talking about IT anyways. I know you're what I would not like to see happen is for it to be lost in the let me use the right word so nobody considers it politically incorrect. In the bureaucratic process of kicking it from one place to the other. You said some words that are wonderful. I don't believe, in siloing. I think that's one of the problems we have in this county. The right hand doesn't know what the left hand does sometimes. And you guys, unfortunately, are like at the middle of a lot of that. And we have to improve that. But I think that's a good place to start to make sure that those 300 some odd leases are as clean as they can be. Thank you. Okay, and then our last presentation will be District 12 resident and director David Clodfelter from OMB, who is coming up to make a a present. Well, yeah, I say that because he's afraid I'm going to knock on his door, which I haven't done yet, but I may one of these days. Depending on one of the meetings with the mayor, I may knock on his door one of these days. It just depends.
Actually, you did knock on my door.
Oh, I did. Well, that's true. That's true. And my prior position, that's true. That's true.
Okay, David Clotfelter, Office of Management and Budget. Good morning, and thank you, Mr. Chairman, for inviting me to share with you how OMB helps protect taxpayer dollars while ensuring our departments have the resources they need to deliver services to the community. This is a challenging balancing act, and we look forward to working with you all and the members of this committee. I want to first say that although the general fund is facing a projected budget shortfall next year, all major funds are in good standing. There are no cash deficits in any of our major funds, and all bond ratings have been upgraded in the past 4 years, saving the county hundreds of millions. Okay, this slide with our vision, mission, and values. For us, I think our mission statement says it all. OMB provides reliable information, expert analysis, guidance, resources, and oversight needed to support excellent public service delivery and to ensure a fiscally responsible local government that is accountable to the community. There's a lot in that statement, and every single part is important in helping us to achieve our goals and serving the community. Our customers and stakeholders. We see ourselves as having a very diverse customer base. Of course, our primary customer are county residents, businesses, and visitors, but we also serve local nonprofits through grant programs, municipalities, and CRA boards, and municipal advisory committees. Our internal customers are you, our elected policymakers, as well as the mayor, county departments, and constitutional offices, and the state of Florida and the U.S. federal government. This diverse and wide-range customer base keeps us on our toes as we consistently need to weigh all of our customers' interests with available resources. OMB basics. OMB is composed of 8 divisions ranging in size and operational scope. We have 111 positions in this year's adopted budget and a budget of $60.4 million. It is important to note that our revenues include proprietary fees as well as federal grants, such as a $27 million grant that we received for the Ryan White program, which are passed through to providers. In the interest of time today, I would like to focus on how just some of our divisions are actively involved in trying to save resources. I'm going to spend some time discussing activities of our budget division, our administration and consulting services division, our program management division, our grants coordination team, and our bond acquisition team. OMB is responsible for preparing the county's operating and capital budget every year. One of our primary goals is to help create a government that is focused on results, and we do this by linking funding recommendations with the board's priorities. To be successful, we work with a variety of stakeholders to the budget process, which include elected policymakers, county departments, and external entities such as business communities, the public and state and federal agencies. We are also looking to improving the systems departments use to develop and monitor their budgets. We assign individual business analysts for each department. These analysts work hand in hand with staff on their budget submissions, ensuring that dollars requested are justified and to find efficiencies. Our administration and consulting services team includes a team of internal consultants that help manage our strategic management framework and support performance improvement projects. The team is in constant contact with departments on their business plans and performance measures. This team also supports and trains county employees in Lean Six Sigma, which is a performance improvement methodology that uses data to help solve problems. Since 2013, we have trained more than 1,800 employees in Lean Six Sigma basics, and for more interested employees, we provide advanced training. Our performance improvement team has also recently begun to assess its own performance to ensure it is delivering actionable and practical support for departments. We are more regularly following up on projects, seeking regular feedback from departments. Finally, our post-training surveys yield very high satisfaction score ratings. Our program, OMB's program management team manages federal funding received for declared storms and other emergency-related situations. The team works closely with departments to obtain reimbursement for their cost during these events. Recently, we began participating in the state's new Florida Recovery Obligation Calculation process, which assesses counties across the state on their policies and procedures. The higher the assessment, the faster the state will send FEMA dollars to the county. I am proud to say that our team has helped secure one of the best scores in the state. Our current portfolio of recent FEMA public assistance project, COVID, Surfside, Hurricane Milton, for example, have a combined total of $770 million in expenses. Grants by numbers for last fiscal year. Next, I am sure you are familiar with our grants coordination team. This team of professionals leads our grants revenue maximization efforts by identifying and pursuing new or enhanced funding to strengthen and expand programs. The team also provides grant writing assistance to county departments and CBOs and offers technical assistance and various trainings to enhance capacity building and support grant-related initiatives. Finally, the team constantly monitors state and federal legislation, appropriations, and regulatory actions that affect grant programs and funding opportunities. You can see that their activities are impactful to county resources. Last fiscal year, they secured $27.6 million for the Ryan White program, which supports individuals with HIV. They also monitored more than 1,000 separate agreements with CBOs funded through a dozen service categories. And finally, they co-wrote, edited, submitted, or provided support for more than 90 projects with approximately $225 million in grant awards for various departments. Since January of 2020, the county has received, as of December 2024, more than $6 billion in federal funds and $712 million more in state funds. This includes approximately $1 billion in CARES Act and ARPA funding. This team is also looking to make processes more efficient and effective. They have recently implemented a paperless workflow for some of their processes. They have instituted electronic signature on their documents, and they have rolled out a grants information management system. The streamlines grants reporting and improvements, coordination, and collaboration countywide. Our grant funds are critical to ongoing department operations, and given the current environment, it is more important than ever that we do everything possible to continue receiving grant resources from state and federal funders. OMB's bond acquisition team plays a critical role in securing funding for county operations and helps manage our portfolio in a way that saves resources. Since 2020, this team has helped the county save $695 million. The team performs its work with diligent planning, stakeholder collaboration, and effective execution, and defines the purpose, structure, and timeline for each debt issuance, ensuring a well-organized approach to all their financings. The team also works with county financial advisors to review our debt portfolio on a regular basis, to identify refinancing opportunities to secure savings. Our bond team manages a portfolio of more than $18 billion. And just last year, the team completed 11 separate financing transactions, including 6 bond issuances. 11 transactions in 24 were 6 bond issuances, 1 non-revolving line of credit, 1 lease drawdown, 3 letters of credit extensions. In 2024, there were 6 upgrades across the county's 16 credits. And because of all our actions, we received very high ratings from these ratings agencies, which result in lower borrowing costs, which translate into taxpayer savings. Moody's issued AA2, Standards & Poor AA, Fitch Ratings AA+, and the highest possible rating is AAA. Well, the question was one thing we would say for, ask your support to, or initiative moving forward. We're analyzing directives to eliminate efficiencies or redundancies in our effort to use resources more effectively. We would appreciate the Commission's support in that initiatives on items coming to you that may eliminate some duplication and other things. And that's my presentation.
Perfect. I don't think any of us are not going to be supportive of duplication on some things, but does anybody have any questions? I know we're going to be dealing with you a lot in the next couple of months, David, and as we go through this budget cycle, but today I want to focus on the department itself. Are there any comments or questions?
No, David, I mean, we all understand that you do a good job. You know, I don't, I don't think the running of your department is what frustrates us.
Thank you.
I think it's the execution of a lot of conflicting interests, right? But I appreciate the kind of drill down. I think it's important, so that folks know how your department works. I mean, I really appreciate that you're always accessible. And one of the things, Mr. Chair, that I know David and I have talked about, and I've talked about with the mayor, and I've mentioned a few times, is, our budget, by law, is presented to us on July 15th. And then we have this July 16th meeting where we set the millage, and it's always a long night. Now, granted, this is the second time it's my birthday, so it makes this, it's always fun. And the agenda is usually a behemoth to boot, right? Our December agenda and our July agenda are always just daunting. And I know we're all meeting, but one thing that I think is important is for folks to, when we look at the budget, there's an overall presentation, but there really needs to be a separation between enterprise budgets and non-enterprise budgets, because there's a lot of confusion, and I hear even stakeholders say things that just don't make sense, right? You cannot pour money out of enterprise departments. You can disagree with how the enterprise departments are allocating their resources, by all means, but it has no impact on the millage, on the budget, on the general fund, right? They exist separate and apart. And we have had really short budget meetings from my perspective. I come from the school board and from the city of Miami, where you pack your breakfast, lunch, and dinner for the board meeting, right? So I'm used to budget meetings that go into 2 and 3 and 4 a.m., right? As we go through the line items. We have not had that experience, and I know that there's a handful of us that have had difficult budgets in the past. And my only suggestion would be, and I know you're doing this, but just when we meet with folks, let's separate the 2 buckets. I don't have a problem spending 3 hours talking about enterprise. We can do that if the board wishes to do that. But really our issue are the other departments, general fund, right? And how to make those things work. There is a crossover between, general fund and enterprise. And we'll be talking about that in the next one, because there are services that are provided to these enterprise funds. and there's charges there, right? So there is a little bit of crossover, but it's a very small universe. And I hope that maybe we can like kind of take up the enterprise and put it to bed and then take on everything else. Because although we vote on everything together, I really think, and I guess this question, I mean, to the county attorneys, maybe there's a way, to do that a little bit easier. So I'll talk with you about it. I know that we have like a set statutory way that we have to do it, but I just feel like we always get mired in the enterprise conversations when we really need to be focusing on the light items that impact the general fund. So, thank you.
And I think that Commissioner Regalado, we're going to have to bring a cake for that long evening. That's going to,
They're already planning on a cake.
so it's very important. No, but thank you, David. I know this is going to be a difficult year. We all know that. There's no surprise. Today was more focused on trying to make, what the department actually does, and I appreciate you taking the time to make sure you let us know how you're actually tackling some of these issues. I mean, there's going to be a lot of other issues. I mean, when I saw the grants, I was very excited, except now I understand that there's probably less money coming from Washington and from Tallahassee. So we all got to be realistic, and that's sometimes the hardest thing to tell the residents because they don't understand sometimes that some of the things we're able to do are things that come through other sources, not just from our own dollars. And I'm assuming by the time we have that discussion, we'll know what finally happens in Tallahassee and how that's going to impact us, because it's going to impact us one way or the other.
And I'm glad you mentioned that, Mr. Chair, because one of the things I wanted to discuss with you is I mentioned it a few months ago that I think that it would be a good idea as we go through the budget process to join this committee with appropriations. I don't think it necessarily needs to be done during the committee cycle, but maybe it would be a good idea for the workshop as we lead into July, if you're all open to it. Because if we join the two committees, we have the bulk of the members. And I think that would allow us, for people who, again, I'm interested. I didn't make dinner plans for my birthday, right? But I know how this goes. I just think we should probably give the board an opportunity as we get closer to have those conversations, because some of us meet with staff, some of us, our staff meets with staff. There's changes that happen, at the end. And, when we set the millage, the die is cast, right? And I think we all know how we feel about the millage, but I think it's important for folks to start walking through that, because what I get frustrated about is you're sitting there at the millage meeting and everyone's surprised. There's nothing to be surprised about. There's like nothing to be surprised about. But there's also a lot of information, and I think we do benefit from maybe a joint meeting, where we can kind of drill down.
We had talked about doing a joint meeting before,
I think it's a good idea.
Now it's easier because you're here, so we'll be able to. We can go ahead and do that. I think we can plan that out because we're going to be tackling the same issues.
I think it would be beneficial. It'll save a lot of David's time. That's for sure.
You can wear them down by the second time. Some people want to wear them down by the second time they see them. So
I'm eating my Wheaties, so.
Yes, yeah. He brings a snack. So we'll have our staff plan on that, and we'll figure out a joint meeting time where we can discuss some of this. And I think one of the things that we should discuss in that meeting would be what is happening with the state and federal funding, right?
We'll have a better idea about
We'll have a better idea by then, because right now we just have, we just think, well, we're going to do a little bit worse than next year. But I think at some point, like yesterday, I brought it up this week during transit, a lot of these, we have to carefully look at the matching funds and kind of what's happening, because it's changing dramatically. So I think there's an opportunity there. So thank you, David. Thank you.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Okay, we have, I believe we have one final item, which is a discussion item, Commissioner Regalado, item 1F1.
So if we can have the department come on down, and then also Yenka, we've passed out a memo from the Office of the Commission Auditor. Once again, I really want to thank the Commission Auditor. I think they're passing it out.
I think we have it. We should have it.
You have it? Okay, all right.
You passed it out to everybody already.
Yeah, we're missing one over here. But just so that we can talk generally about ITD, as I mentioned, this has come up a few times. ITD provides services to a lot of different departments. I believe that at least the enterprise departments should have an opportunity to have a standalone. I'll provide a little bit of historical background. I always joke here that, you know, while other kids were watching Days of Our Lives, I was watching the county commission meetings. But about, I want to say 7 to 8 years ago, there was a decision to centralize all of these services. And there are several fees associated with that. And the work that I asked Yinka to look at is how do these tickets work? And because there's a general fee that's charged to all the departments for using this service, and then there's the humans who are actually doing this work. And then those humans get tickets, and then those tickets go back and forth. And my frustration has been specifically with RER and WASD, because obviously the department has a lot of priorities and things change. And by the way, sometimes we're the ones that change the priorities, right? So sometimes we say, start a website or do this or change that, and then all of a sudden resources get pulled, right? And things take longer. And then there's also been changes in software. We talked about Informs, you know, we've talked about a lot of the different things that have taken up a tremendous amount of bandwidth. But then we have projects that we continue saying are important, and it's difficult to get them done, like the digitizing of the DERM permits, right? And things like that. And now I know that the department has also been impacted by the return to work, right? So I wanted to ask the director about that. But if we could just have a basic overview by the director. Thank you for joining us, and then we'll go into some of the specifics.
Good morning, or I guess it's almost afternoon. Margaret Brisbane, Director of ITD, and thanks for the opportunity to talk to you about our department. You mentioned several things relative to the service that we provide to county departments. And I'd just like to really set the stage. You talked about consolidation. We started doing this 12 years ago at the directive of our previous mayor, that said, you know, there could be opportunities for standardization and efficiency. And so a project was put in place to really look across county departments at an opportunity to do that type of standardization and to drive efficiencies. This was done in a very methodical and thoughtful way to make sure that we did not impact the services of those departments. The teams that were in place in those departments remained in place because we understood the importance of having institutional knowledge to continue the effective delivery of services for the department. So although we're consolidated, we have left in place the teams that were there before. But what consolidation offered is the ability to have really a backup of resources. To say the person working at WASD, who is your database person, goes on vacation or is ill, that we are able to leverage resources in the ITD family of resources to support a department so they're never left without services. So that's what consolidation really brought in terms of the way that we approach this. Again, standardization, efficiency, but resources and knowledge of the departments were left in place. So then we talked about projects. You mentioned projects in departments. The things that we are aiming to do is really to align with all department directors on their priorities. And you are right, things change from day to day. So how do we ensure that we are doing the things that drive their business? And I'll use RER as an example. Our team really is working closely with Director Lourdes Gomez on her priority. We spent days going through the things that she would like on her 2 to 5 year roadmap, saying, here are the things that are important for my business, and how do we get that done? So one of the things we have done is put together a joint roadmap, which requires people, projects, and timing. And we have been working very closely with RER to ensure we're meeting their priorities. And the question is there anything we're doing today that we can stop doing so that we can focus on different priorities? So we do not have to always be looking to hire additional people, but we could focus staff on new priorities. So we're doing that jointly. RER is one example, but we're doing that across the board. We meet with department directors almost on a monthly basis because, again, we change the priorities to make sure we're totally aligned with the mayor's WISE 305, and departments are constantly looking at different ways to deliver services, which may require, pivoting from one set of technology solutions to another. Another area that we're focused on is modernization. I think you heard from several of the presenters today. IT is embedded in everything we do. So at the end of the day, for us to be able to become more efficient, we have got to leverage technology. No longer can we depend on sticky notes or, spreadsheets. We have got to get technology that helps with garnering the data we have. That's why dashboards are so important. And we have almost 2,500 dashboards deployed countywide across departments, helping department directors and their teams to make more timely decisions based on facts. And so we are in a situation where we are supporting existing operation, but we're also trying to ensure that we're modernizing the county because there are issues that we need to be aware of. The technology that is older has skills associated with those. Those employees are going to retire, I can guarantee you, in the next 3 to 5 years in some of our instances. But it's not just technology staff. We have department resources that knows those older systems, and we are joint at the hips to ensure that the technology folks are working with the business partners. So modernization needs to be planned, but it also needs investment. We're in the midst of modernizing our criminal justice environment. So our CJIS environment, which is 35 years old, is being modernized, or traffic and parking. But then we also have our prime RER systems that need to be modernized as well. So we're working closely, as I said, working with Lourdes on her roadmap. When does that get done? When does the investment get made? What resources do we need to make that happen? Most recently on WASD, we worked with Amanda and her team to upgrade their call center. And I can tell you, people are mentioning AI. That's where AI was really effective because the residents are now seeing that we are putting technology in place to give them more timely access to service. And they're telling WASD that this is really great for them because they can get an answer to their questions much faster. So, Commissioner, we are really working with our departments to make sure we have a path to the future. I hear you about the concerns relative to whether they should have their own IT, but I do think that we have demonstrated that having a standard approach to delivering technology has been extremely effective in the county, and we are really working directly with these department directors to understand their priorities and to be able to pivot when needed to meet their needs.
Margaret, I thank you for that response, but I think we all have a number of questions.
Absolutely.
I know that eventually we would like to see a clearer presentation on what the department
does. Yes, I am.
And
I think I'll be up for a presentation shortly, and I'll be happy to do that.
And I think you're coming, hopefully you come to us the next month maybe. But,
yes.
You know, I share Commissioner Regalado's concerns because I think sometimes it's also a philosophical perspective. That might have been something that was good 12 years ago, may not be as effective today.
And the airport does not participate in this.
Right, and you're correct.
We have 3 departments not consolidated: aviation, fire, and the medical examiner, and those were really stopped because of COVID.
Right. So I think that, and I want you to take this the right way. It's a philosophical issue to a certain extent as to what we may believe is the more efficient way to deliver that service, not necessarily being critical of what might have been done before. It's just things changed. One of the things that stands out to me from Yinka's report, you know, we have, you know, from 2017 to 2018 to today, we have 164 more employees in the technology department. Technology is meant to streamline and make things more efficient. And I understand that there may be a need for it, and I'm sure you have an explanation for it. Today may not be the day to talk about it, but, and I'm not going to speak for Commissioner Regalado because she's going to speak in a minute, but I share a lot of her concerns. And we used, and the last meeting, we talked about RERs specifically because dealing with them, if you're going through the permitting process and it stops 3/4 of the way, and then the communication stops 3/4 of the way, that makes it a lot less effective and efficient. And I can tell you that I hear that complaint from businesses in the industry across the board all the time. It's not even, it's probably one of the things I hear the most, which is why does it take so long? And really, when you have a business that's opening up, somebody who signs a lease, a small business that signs a lease, and they might get 3 months free rent. But if it takes them 6 to 9 months to open up their business, they're paying rent for 6 to 9 months, 6 months, and they really can't afford that in most instances. And sometimes it doesn't let them continue. And that's, I think, where the rubber kind of meets the road. Philosophically, I think we need to look at this as what's the best way to deliver those services. And I think that's where Commissioner Regalado's coming from, where I'm coming from, which is how do we find some solutions to that?
Right, and thank you, Chairman. I think also for some of these departments, they are forward-facing, and they just need to move faster. I just feel like they're constantly, interacting with consumers, and they need to move faster, and they need to be able to pivot. So while I appreciate, the communication, I feel like instead of having a meeting with the department about the priorities, the director could just go directly to the human who's doing the work, right? And just that day, right, deal with it, as opposed to, just organizing a meeting at the county, can take several days. So I appreciate it, and I think that for some departments, it works. But I think for some of these other departments that are forward-facing, that are just constantly collecting data that we use, and I'm going to bring Yank up in a second, but, we have all of our different frustrations, but some of our board actions, we went back and forth for months, and the information that we were getting from our departments was not up to date because it had gotten to the bottom of the list. So we did an entire analysis on data that was not current because they hadn't had an opportunity to make it current. So I feel that if it was within the purview of some of these departments, they could move it that day, and whether they use Monday or whatever they want to use, right, to kind of move things around, I think for them it would be a lot more efficient. So while and look, the other thing that I think that we need to talk about is we also have these enormous contracts. And Microsoft is one of them. And what happens is, I've heard horror stories about how long it takes someone to get a license, and access all these things. And I just feel like if they had their own licenses that were allocated to their department and they could just access them directly, and give them to whatever supervisor needed it, it would be a lot easier than having to constantly go through this system that can take a very long time. So with that, Yinka, if you can present your findings, and I want to thank Yinka and his staff. They're always wonderful. And I think the execution of this will give you a little bit of perspective into, my frustration, and the different things that I think that we should consider when we look at the tickets. And I'm glad that Margaret brought up the timing, because the timing is what is really driving my analysis of it. So Yank, if you could please present your findings.
Good afternoon, Yinka Majokudumi, Commissioner Auditor's Office. We were asked to look into the MOU background and how that transitions into the service levels agreement and how the service level agreements are executed through either work orders or service tickets. We covered a bit of preliminary information from data collected through ITD, dealing with approximately 200 work orders and 200,000 work orders and over 300,000 incident tickets. And just for reference, ITD provides both billable and non-billable services. Billable services are customer-specific requests. Non-billable often cover what we call the general infrastructure of the county that is not specific to an individual department. The formality of the MOU, as you're aware through the director, has evolved over the years because of IT consolidation. But most of the tracking of activities still evolves around the work orders and the service tickets. What we presented has a range of multiple customers. As you know, some customers are not county departments, and we wanted to just emphasize that because ITD also provides services to non-county entities. We have variations of time, which is how long it takes from the beginning of a ticket to the end of the ticket, which is the full life cycle of a request. And the minimum that we had in our report was 1 day as the minimum for most of the departments, and the maximum we had through the report was over 1,100 days, which depending on the type of ticket it was, took longer. I wanted to share that these are preliminary numbers. We're still working with the department to get a good understanding of some of the deliverables, and in some cases, the extreme cases, why they took longer. So those are preliminary numbers, Commissioner Regalado. I don't know if you have any specific questions, but I think you've covered the area about why the tickets exist in the way they do for departments, both proprietary and non-proprietary departments, because IT consolidated and took responsibility of IT delivery of services.
The information on the timing, right? Can you speak to your understanding of that? And I guess I will hear from the director as to kind of how do we get to these numbers?
Yeah, so these numbers was extracted directly from the system used to deliver service to customers, which is the remedy system. And it tracks from the origin of the request, which is when either a customer puts in a ticket online or calls, to when the actual incident is closed or the project or work order is closed. And there's a spread here that we may not be able to cover today, but I wanted you to be able to see the spread. For every spread, there's some reason why certain tickets took longer. We haven't gotten into the meat and potatoes of that yet, but we are aware that there's a high range that still may need to be explained properly. But overall, we've assessed that there is some tracking at the department level. We're not, we haven't finalized the level of monitoring that's happening with those tickets, but we do know that the department does track the tickets, and the days are available to us. We'll be looking at it, and we'll provide you with an update as soon as we close most of this collaboration work that we're doing.
Thank you. Madam Director?
Yeah, we are happy to work with Yinka and to provide any additional information that's needed to validate. I think it's important to understand that there is an incident. Someone calls and says, my password isn't working, versus I need to purchase a new system, which may require, so either an RFI, an RFP, so the dates may differ, so a work order and an incident. So that's what we'll spend some additional time with Yinka, so that there's a distinction between the time frame for what gets solved in a day versus what needs to purchase a new solution to implement a solution. So we'll definitely provide some additional data there.
Thank you.
And I'd just like to make, if there is a desire to learn more about the entire MOU process or budgeting process, how we work with departments, how we set priorities, I'll be more than happy to spend time with each of our commissioners to go through that in as much detail as you would like.
Thank you. And I think we'll when you do your presentation, we'll talk a little bit more about that. My understanding is that there's like a general fee and then there's the human, right? So it appears from my initial analysis, in the legal field, we call it double billing. But we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out when you do your presentation, because that's one of my concerns. I think that folks get pulled in a lot of different directions. And that's why specifically for the enterprise systems, I'm concerned, because there's very strict regulations as to what they're paying for, right? And how that money is used. So I think it would help us from a clarity perspective to have something that's a little bit cleaner for them. Because when I looked at those numbers, it was a little all over the place.
And I think it's important to understand with every department, we have a memorandum of understanding that says, here is the services we provide to you and here is how we're going to deliver those services. So we'll be happy to go through that with you as well to ease your mind about any double billing there.
Thank
you.
Thank you. Thank you both.
Can I just say, point of privilege, Commissioner Regalado, we were happy to work with the neurodivergent students at Miami-Dade. Romano has been a great addition to our team, and he loves it so much that he wants to spend the summer with us. So we're happy to have him.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you both, and thank you, Commissioner Regalado, for bringing this up. I think it's an important issue that you're correct. If we double bill, we get in trouble with our clients. So I think that that's something that would be just as important here. Okay, I think we're about to conclude next month. The goal is, so the administration understands, ITD, Housing and Community Development, and Seaport. So hopefully we'll be able to get some more discussion and answers on some of these issues. I want to thank my colleagues for taking the time to be here today, and certainly for everyone that made their presentation and answered our questions as we move forward to try to make our county more efficient and more effective in the way it provides services. With that, I think we can conclude this meeting. Motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
The Water Use Efficiency Plan was established in 2007. As part of Miami-Dade County's Water Use Permit, the plan contains a water conservation program for best management practices to promote water savings among residents and businesses in our county. For indoor water use, rebates are available for the purchase and installation of water-efficient fixtures, such as faucets,